A cool front had finally pushed the summer haze off the Mississippi Delta and left the air trembling with anticipation instead of heat. Down on the low, sloping riverbank behind the Moorhaven Public Library, canvas booths bloomed like wildflowers, and the scent of hickory-smoked ribs tangled with river mud and spilled beer. This was the first evening of the annual Big Bend Blues and Barbecue Festival, and half the county had come to listen, eat, and, in my case, keep an eye on the amateur harmonica contest. I'm Magnolia Dupree, Maggie to everyone except my late mother and the dentist, and while I usually mind the circulation desk at the library, Festival Week turns me into a volunteer of all trades. The committee trusts me because I have the kind of face that can't hide a lie, and more importantly, because I love blues so much that I refuse to let the event slip into anything unsavory. Unfortunately, unsavory had a way of sauntering in anyway, like a stray dog smelling leftover ribs. This year's contest carried a $5,000 purse, courtesy of a tourist grant meant to polish up our little town. Money like that draws talent, but it also draws trouble. I was therefore not surprised when Roosevelt Rosie King, a soft-spoken 60-something harmonica legend who usually stuck to Memphis juke joints, showed up to register. He wore a straw fedora pulled low and kept his best marine straight posture, even while leaning on a hand-carved cane. More surprising was the arrival of Tucker Hale, a slick online influencer better known for viral harmonica covers of pop songs than Mississippi blues. "It's like bringing a ring light to a church revival," my friend Ida May muttered, as Tucker's assistant pinned a laminated badge to his designer overalls. Ida May, head of festival security, was 5 feet of muscle and attitude, but she needed eyes in more than one back of the head. That's where I came in. By 7, twilight poured lilac over the river. Children chased lightning bugs between picnic blankets, and amplifiers coughed into life on the plywood stage. I carried a clipboard, making sure the contestants lined up in the correct order, when Rosie tugged my elbow. "Miss Maggie," he said, voice like gravel rolled in honey. "Might I ask a librarian's opinion? On Dewey Decimal classifications or barbecue sauce?" He half smiled and held out a battered silver marine band harmonica. "On ciphering. Someone's leaned on me to play crooked." "Play crooked," I repeated, "as in intentionally lose?" Rosie nodded. "Or else win for the wrong fella." He indicated Tucker Hale without looking. "That boy's got followers but not the chops. Somebody wants him champ all the same." "The judges are sealed," I said. "Scores are tallied backstage in front of 2 committee members." "Somebody found a way round that, seem like." He pointed to the harmonica again. "See these scratches? Ain't from my pocket change." On the shiny cover plates I noticed shallow etchings, dots and dashes near each hole. "Someone scratched your harp." "Or left me a note. I woke to find it on my motel pillow, like a mint." The scratches reminded me of Morse code, but the pattern curved into swirls like musical phrasing. I copied them onto my clipboard and promised to think. The first round kicked off. Rosie, despite worry, eased into a minor key rendition of Crossroad Blues, so mournful it made cicadas hush. Tucker Hale, by contrast, bounced to a canned backing track, hitting high bends that sounded impressive if you didn't notice they were off pitch. The crowd cheered anyway. Fame can do that. Judges scribbled, Ida May gathered score sheets, and I felt a prickle. If results were being rigged, the fix would happen after the judges wrote honest numbers. Our safeguarding measure was Dwayne Pritchard, treasurer and owner of the local pawnshop, who transferred the sheets into a locked cash box. Dwayne, stout and pink-cheeked, waved to me as he carried the box toward the administrative tent. "Smooth sailing so far, Miss Maggie." "We'll see," I murmured. That night, once the audience drifted off to beer gardens and dance floors, I stayed behind to help fold chairs. Rosie's harmonica secrets tugged at my mind, so I took the copied scratch pattern home. My cottage sits 2 blocks from the levee, close enough that the river's hush mutters through the screens. I spread the paper under a lamp, brewed peach tea, and studied. Librarians know that everything is, at heart, a classification problem. Find the right system, and the mystery files itself. I listed possibilities, Morse, Braille, even odd cipher, then caught a phrase Rosie had said. Play crooked. Could the code employ notes rather than letters? Harmonica holes are numbered 1 through 10, each producing different notes when blown or drawn. Dots and dashes might indicate blow versus draw. Swirls could mark a bend. If so, the etchings weren't vandalism, but sheet music visible only to the player's thumb. I transcribed blow as B, draw as D, bend as lowercase. The sequence read B4, D4, B5, B5, D5, B6, D6, B5, B4. I reached for an online harmonica tab chart that spelled the melody of Pay Me My Money Down, a Georgia Sea Islands work song. An odd choice unless it carried a message. Pay me. My pulse skittered. The next morning I visited Rosie's motel, a pastel building that smelled like fried catfish even at 9 a.m. He answered wearing a pressed shirt and offering a courteous nod. I showed my findings. "Pay me," he echoed, brows knitting. "Looks like blackmail, all right." "Who delivered it?" He shrugged. "No knock on the door. I sleep light, yet I never heard a soul. It had to be someone with access to your room and knowledge of harp tab." I exhaled. "You trust anyone around here?" He smiled sadly. "Trust, Miss Maggie, is like a paper mouthpiece. Gets soggy fast." We decided to attend the judge's rehearsal that afternoon. Ida May tolerated us lurking by reminding Dwayne and the others that transparency was a civic virtue. The judges, 3 respected musicians, practiced marking sample scores while I watched Dwayne tally. His system, he read each score aloud. Ida May wrote totals on a chalkboard, then he locked originals in that cash box. It all looked sound until I noticed Dwayne's tie, blue silk with tiny harmonicas printed along the diagonal. Cute, but one of those harmonicas carried a swirl pattern the way Rosie's scratches did. Coincidence? During a break, I eased beside Dwayne. "Love the tie," I said casually. "Where'd you get it?" "Gift from my niece," he answered too quickly. "She shops the internet for me." Sweet of her. I examined the knot area. The patterned harp sat smack at the collar, impossible for him to see without a mirror, yet he fingered it after I stepped back, as if checking whether I'd noticed. That evening, round 2 commenced, and I stationed myself in the tabulation tent. The sun bled orange over the river, and dragonflies looped above the crowd. Tucker Hale played first, launching into showy warbles while live-streaming himself. Rosie followed with a soulful minor blues that made a couple slow dance near the beverage truck. But halfway through his solo, his harp squealed a sour note. I saw him frown, then regain composure. After applause waned, he walked off stage straight to me. "Somebody warmed the reeds with a lighter," he whispered, brandishing the harmonica's warped edge. Harmonica reeds can be ruined if overheated. The culprit had hoped to sabotage him. Ida May bristled and ordered a search of backstage, but nothing surfaced except Tucker's assistant's fanny pack of lip balms. When judges' sheets arrived, I watched Dwayne tally. Rosie's numbers looked healthy. Tucker's only moderate, yet Dwayne's chalked totals told the opposite. I blinked. Was I misreading? Ida May, busy fielding a noise complaint, hadn't cross-checked. By the time I leaned over, Dwayne snapped the cash box shut. You added wrong, I said softly. Excuse me. His smile chilled. Rosie scored 89, 86, 90. Tucker scored 72, 78, 75. You recorded 91 for Tucker. He spread his palms. Math of the moment, Maggie. I'll recount at day's end. Let's recount now. He lifted the cash box. After the finals, in front of everyone, I promise. Ida May returned, but Dwayne had already pocketed the key. That night, moonlight gilded the river. I met Rosie on the bank where frogs croaked like off-beat metronomes. Dwayne's cooking the books, I said, but I can't prove it without those score sheets. Rosie spat into the grass. He's the cash man for the festival and the pawn shop, means he holds debts. Folks owing him might scratch messages on harps or ties. It clicked. Dwayne must be deep with gamblers, leveraging the contest to pay them back. Rig the results so Tucker, whose influencer platform guaranteed post-win sponsorships, earns enough to kick back a portion. How's the tie fit? Rosie nudged. The pattern on it is identical to your code. Maybe it's his reminder or calling card. I returned home determined to retrieve evidence. While sipping more tea, I played Pay Me My Money Down on an online stream. On repeat, another thought surfaced. What if the musical code didn't only say pay me, it could embed numbers? The chorus lyric repeats pay me, then go on pay me, similar to how judges' columns repeat. Maybe each riff corresponded to a judge. Too much speculation, too few hours. Final round loomed Saturday night. Crowds tripled, riverboats moored nearby, string lights flickered in balmy dusk. Ida May stationed extra deputies, sensing tension. Tucker, wearing a sequined vest, filmed a TikTok dance beside a smoker full of ribs. Rosie sat under a cottonwood, polishing a spare harmonica with a square of silk. I told Ida May about my suspicions. Her jaw flexed. We'll nab him fair and square, but chain of custody matters, Maggie. We need the sheets in hand. A plan formed faster than shucking corn. I would infiltrate final tabulation. Ida May would orchestrate a distraction. Rosie would provide the soundtrack. The contest began. Lesser finalists performed first, then Tucker. He clutched the mic, announcing, "This one's for my 3.8 million followers," and launched into a medley that sampled Old Town Road. The crowd was torn between dancing and wincing. When it was Rosie's turn, he hobbled on stage with the cane, winked my way, and began a haunting rendition of St. James Infirmary. Halfway through, he segued into Pay Me My Money Down. The audience, older folks especially, responded by clapping on 2 and 4. When he hit the final repetitive lines, "Pay me, pay me," Ida May cued a cluster of fireworks downriver. Crackling blooms lit the sky. Everyone's gaze tilted upward, including Dwayne's. I slipped into the admin tent while sparks still hissed. The cash box sat on a folding table. Dwayne's jacket hung over the back of a chair. The key bulged in its pocket. I'd practiced removing keys from my own coats to avoid jangling. The technique translated. Box open, I snapped photos of every score sheet with my phone. Then, heart hammering, replaced them and relocked. The entire operation lasted 30 seconds. Back on the lawn, Rosie blew his final note, long and sweet, like a train whistle vanishing. He bowed, and applause rolled across the bank like thunder over cotton fields. Ida May herded the judges' fresh sheets toward Dwayne. The audience waited for results while cicadas resumed their roar. In the glow of string lights, Dwayne performed his tally ritual. When he chalked the numbers, I stepped forward, voice steady through the tremor inside. "Mr. Pritchard, those scores aren't accurate." Gasps fluttered. Tucker's assistant lowered the ring light. Dwayne chuckled. "Miss Dupree, please allow officials to work." "I have recordings of the real math." I raised my phone. Photographs time-stamped 4 minutes ago. They show Rosie leading by 6 points. Murmurs turned into ripples of accusations. Tucker frowned, genuinely perplexed. Dwayne turned a violent shade of cranberries. "She stole private documents." "Public competition," Ida May cut in. "Transparency is policy. Let's all view the sheets." She reached for the box. Dwayne clutched it, but 2 deputies flanked him. Under the glare of lights, Ida May unlocked the box. She compared sheets to Maggie's photos, and then to the chalkboard. Discrepancies glared like neon. Judge Carla Jennings shook her dreadlocks. "Those aren't the numbers I wrote." Dwayne stammered about smudged ink, misreads and arithmetic errors, but the committee smelled barnyard. They stripped him of duties on the spot. Ida May escorted him towards the sheriff's van parked by the levee. The festival MC, perspiring under a Panama hat, cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Big Bend Blues and Barbecue Harmonica Contest, by unanimous correct tally, is Roosevelt Rosie King." Cheers erupted. Rosie lifted both arms, harmonica glinting, joy lines crinkling around his eyes. Tucker approached him backstage, sheepish. "Man, I didn't know about any of this. Congrats. Maybe you could guest on my channel sometime?" Rosie laid a fatherly hand on his shoulder. "First learn to bend a note without bending the truth." Tucker nodded, chastened. Later, after Dwayne had been driven off to face charges of fraud and attempted bribery, illegal under the festival bylaws and likely Mississippi state gambling statutes, Ida May and I sat with Rosie at the riverbank. The music stages had gone dark. Only insect symphonies and the lazy clink of boat rigging remained. Lanterns along the path cast gold halos. Rosie chuckled. "Miss Maggie, that was bold, lifting a key and taking pictures." I shrugged. "I'm a librarian. We're trained in quiet removal of materials." Ida May laughed until tea dribbled from her nose. "But tell me," I turned to Rosie, "how did you settle on pay me my money down for your code?" "Old stevedore chant," he said, swirling iced tea. "Folks used it when demanding wages owed. Figured whoever scratched my harp wanted to signal both payment and river work. See, Dwayne financed a riverboat casino scheme last year that went bust. He's been in hock ever since." I blinked. I never heard that story. "Town keeps its skeletons under cypress roots," Ida May muttered. The tie, we later discovered, was part of Dwayne's covert signalling to gamblers. Every swirl corresponded to a rigged event. A private investigator hired by one of his creditors confirmed as much. Turns out Dwayne promised payoff percentages if they bet on festival outcomes he could manipulate. By dawn, the sheriff had frozen Dwayne's pawnshop assets. The festival board had named Ida May interim treasurer, and Rosie donated half his winnings to repair the historical marker at the old Moorhaven juke joint. Sunday morning, soft gospel harmonies drifted from the riverside revival tent. I walked the bank with a box of returned library books, greeting vendors packing up. Rosie sat on an overturned cooler, harmonica to lips, improvising a lullaby for the river herself. I paused. "You heading out?" I asked. "In a spell." He winked. "Got a fresh harp, fresh start. Thought I'd give Moorhaven's sunrise a tune to remember." He played a slow, hopeful strain. Children chasing bubbles stopped, mesmerized. Even the barges seemed to hush. Cozy mysteries seldom end with gunshots, they end with pie. So that evening, Ida May and I hosted Rosie for peach pecan chess pie in my kitchen. The air smelled of cinnamon and river mist drifting through the screen door. We toasted with sweet tea. To honest notes, I said. To readers of codes, Rosie added. Ida May raised her mug. To librarians who don't shush trouble when it needs hollerin' at. Outside, summer's first katydid clicked a green rhythm, and for a moment the delta felt stitched whole by music, justice, and a harmonica's clear, untarnished note